Hello everyone, Calamity here, and today we're going to talk about the weapon banner in 3.6. Hope the new update is treating y'all well. In this video, we're just going to go over all of the weapons in the banner that you can currently pull for, and talk about who they could be used on, and pretty much if they're worth pulling or not. The first weapon on the banner is going to be the Key of the Khaj Nisut. I'm just going to call this the Key Sword, okay? This is Nilou's signature weapon. It has a stat of HP percentage, which is already, right off the bat, that should tell you, maybe not the best option for a lot of characters already. There isn't a lot of HP scaling characters out there, but let's take a look at the weapons effect. So we have the Sunken Song of the Sands, which is going to straight up increase your HP by 20%. When you use an elemental skill that hits opponents, you gain the Grand Hymn effect for 20 seconds. This effect increases the equipping character's elemental mastery by 0.12% of their max HP. This effect can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds for the maximum of 3 stacks. When this effect gains 3 stacks or when the third stack duration is refreshed, the elemental mastery of all nearby party members will be increased by 0.2% of the equipping character's max HP for 20 seconds. So this gives Nilou, basically the signature user, right, tons of her needed stats here because she needs the HP. That's just how she scales her skill and burst. And then the elemental mastery is just going to make sure that your investment in HP isn't going to go to waste and she's not going to lose out on her own damage, because you know, when it comes to the bloom team that she's designed for, you know, you can't always control who's activating or who's triggering the elemental reaction. So just having her have a decent amount of elemental reaction this way is also really good. But it also gives her more support buffs, as she's going to help your team gain elemental mastery as well, giving the person that should be doing the triggering of the elemental reactions even more elemental mastery, therefore more damage. Because of how this weapon, again, it gives a substat of HP percentage, it's not going to be that good on a lot of characters, unfortunately, outside of the signature user. But to give you a small few suggestions on who it could be used on, we have Layla first and foremost. She is a character that is also in the banner, 4 stars. So if you pull her and you happen to have this weapon and you either don't have Nilou or your Nilou already has one, you could give this to her because Layla does scale off HP. That is how she gets more shield, and then the added elemental mastery to her will actually increase her damage somewhat, since she's also going to be doing off-field cryo application, you know, if you're using her in some sort of melt team. Another character that could use this is Cookie Shinobu. The HP percentage is going to be nice for her, and then the elemental mastery is also going to be, of course, that's how you build Cookie Shinobus, with elemental mastery for her aggravate or her hyperbloom teams. Although I will say that this is a very expensive option. Cookie Shinobu has plenty of 4-star options that are actually might even perform better than this, and you know, give her much more needed stats like energy recharge or even more elemental mastery straight up without having to trigger anything. So it's very hard to recommend this weapon too much. So I would only suggest pulling for it if you pulled for Nilou and you have some gems left over. But even then, Nilou still has some of her own 4-star weapon options that are going to be plenty, that will perform well enough for your Nilou. Next up, we have 1,000 Floating Dreams. This is obviously Nahida's signature weapon, and it's going to give you elemental mastery as a substat. And let's go over the weapon's effect. It's called 1,000 Nights Dawn Song. Party members other than the equipping character will provide the equipping character with buffs based on whether their elemental type is the same as the latter or not. If the elemental types are the same, you get an increase of elemental mastery by 32. If not, then you get an increase of their damage bonus type, elemental type, by 10%. Each of the aforementioned effects can have up to 3 stacks. Additionally, all nearby party members other than the equipping character will have their elemental mastery increased by 40. Multiple such effects from multiple such weapons can stack. Now, this is basically the Gilded Dreams artifact set effect, but I believe reversed. So you just get elemental mastery straight up, and then depending on what team members are with the equipping character, they'll also either get elemental damage bonus or an elemental mastery bonus, which is a win-win for Nahida, of course, the signature user of this weapon. It's going to be amazing on her. But who else can be amazing for? Let's say you don't have Nahida and you just happen to pull this weapon. You're like, great, who am I going to use this on? Well, The second character that comes to mind is going to be Sucrose, because Sucrose is just a character that definitely just wants to build elemental mastery. She has a passive talent where she shares a portion of her elemental mastery with her team. This also could be used on Lisa if you're deciding to use her as either an elemental mastery focused DPS or even aggravate or hyperbloom team. It's going to be very strong there. If you're planning to use Barbara or Kokomi as a bloom DPS, this weapon, again, also a very, very strong option. Although I should also mention that all of these characters also have really good 4-star options, and there's one in this banner currently. So if you failed to get this weapon, there's another one that serves as a decent, or actually a really solid 2nd or even 3rd option for your characters. Now let's talk about the 4 stars on the weapon banner. Now we've seen plenty of these weapons before, so I'm just going to quickly go over them. But I do got to say right off the bat that this is actually a very, very solid set of 4-star weapons. Like, none of them, just straight off the bat, are completely useless. The one that might get the least amount of value is probably the Favonius GreatSword. But let's go ahead and dive in on these 4 stars. So the first one is the Xiphos Moonlight. This is a sword that gives you elemental mastery as a substat. And let's talk about the weapon effect first. It's called the Genie's Whisper. The following effect will trigger every 10 seconds. The equipping character will gain 36% energy recharge for each point of elemental mastery they possess for 12 seconds, with nearby party members gaining 30% of this buff for the same duration. So that means they're going to get that extra energy recharge, which is actually really nice. Multiple instances of this weapon can allow this buff to stack. The effect will still trigger even if the character is not on the field. Very, very good weapon for those that want elemental mastery, which is, you know, a lot of sword characters and Denjo characters these days. But the first character that actually comes to mind is going to be Kazuha, because you do build him for lots of elemental mastery naturally, and this is just going to give him that, while also giving him energy recharge to not just him, but his teammates as well. So you're going to be able to burst off cooldown more reliably. This allows you just to go hard on, you know, well, obviously you still want to get more elemental mastery for him, but you can go hard on crit rate, crit damage, things like that, without having to invest also in his energy recharge. Although, you know, you still want a little bit. Other characters that this could be good for is, of course, Kuki Shinobu. As we mentioned before, she is another character that just wants elemental mastery, and this will help with her energy recharge needs without, you know, feeling like you went too hard on elemental mastery and now you don't have enough energy recharge to burst off cooldown. Well, this weapon helps with that. This is also another good option for Nilo. If you're unlucky to pull for her signature weapon, this weapon serves as a good secondary option for you. Again, gives her what she needs with elemental mastery and some energy recharge. And one more character I could recommend this sword on, but it's not going to be the best option. I would only use this if you have literally nothing else. Alhaitham. If you have this sword, if you don't have a good weapon for him, then this sword could serve as a filler option, at least until you get a better 4-star or even a 5-star weapon later down the road. But that's going to be it for this weapon. Let's move on to the next. Alright, I mentioned earlier that this is going to be probably the least useful weapon, but it's not the weapon's fault, it's more of lack of characters that can use it. So it's a Favonius GreatSword. If you're not familiar with the Favonius weapon effect, they're all pretty much the same. So yeah, when you do a crit, you have a chance to generate extra elemental particles for your team. This chance can be increased to 100% basically at Refinement 5. So every time you crit, within the cooldown of course, you'll be giving your team extra energy. It also has a substat of energy recharge. Now, who is this good for? Dori. Immediately right off the bat, she's on the banner. If you grab this sword, it's going to be great for her. It gives her tons of energy recharge and allows her to be even more of a battery for her team. Another character that can use this weapon is going to be Sayu, also a Claymore user. Also appreciates the energy recharge, and again, just being a battery for your team while she rolls around and uses her elemental skill. Unfortunately, there isn't too many characters after those initial two. There are maybe like 1 or 2 characters you can maybe fit this in, like maybe a Chongyun, if you want to cover his energy recharge needs or just make him a sort of battery type support character. And the other is Xinyan, if you want to use her more as a support and you want to just make her be a battery for her team, then this is a really good weapon for that sort of build. But yeah, as you can see, it's not so much that the weapon is bad, because the Favonius Lance, the Favonius Sword, highly recommended weapon on so many characters, because there's just so many good sword and spear support characters. It's just, there isn't too many great sword support, so it's hard to recommend it on a lot of characters. But hopefully, you know, more characters that keep getting added in, we'll see more value of this weapon. Next up, we have the Dragon's Bane. I've said this a ton in the past, but this is right off the bat, this is Hu Tao's best 4-star option if you do not have a Staff of Homa or other 5-star pole arms. But it does have a subset of Elemental Mastery and a very simple effect where your opponents will take extra damage when affected by Hydro or Pyro. This is also going to be a good weapon for Hyperbloom Raiden Shogun if you're deciding to build her for that specific team comp. We've mentioned before that Zhongling also appreciates this polearm, but you know, Zhongling can also appreciate every polearm in the game basically, because she's just that versatile. Another character that can take advantage of this weapon is going to be Sinnoh, especially if you're using him in a quick bloom team. This is going to be his second best option, you know, right after his signature weapon, of course. Next up is the Sacrificial Fragments. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier when we were discussing Nihida's signature weapon. If you are unlucky to pull that weapon and you got these instead, these are a good secondary or even tertiary option for, you know, your elemental mastery need characters. This is still going to be solid on Nihida, even though she doesn't really need the weapon effect. She has a really short cooldown on her elemental skill, but the fact that this weapon gives you so much elemental mastery is already just good enough on why it's such a highly recommended option for her. Sucrose, again, also highly recommended. Basically, all the characters that I said that are good for the 1,000 Floating Dreams are also going to be good with the Sacrificial Fragments, simply because of the extra elemental mastery that this weapon provides. Alright, I think you're starting to see a pattern of a lot of elemental mastery here. They really want to get you ready for your bloom comps or hyper bloom comps here. But the last weapon on the banner is going to be the Stringless. Very simple weapon effect once again. Elemental skill and burst damage are going to be increased by 24%. Subset of elemental mastery, as I mentioned. Now this weapon I recommended in my official guide. This is going to be her best 4-star option because, again, it's just a simple effect. And Fischl is a character that just generates so much particles that you don't need that much energy recharge on her, so you don't have to invest in it heavily, and you can go hard on elemental mastery. This is also going to be good on characters like Venti, Kali, but you got to make sure you get her the necessary energy recharge since it doesn't give any. This also can be a good option for Yelan. This is actually going to be a rare character recommendation, but I think a lot of people forget she exists, or maybe you're a new player and that doesn't have her. But Alloy is a character that can use the Stringless, since that's all you should be using with Alloy is her elemental skill and elemental burst. Anyways, and the elemental mastery subset will just make it do more damage. And that's about it for this weapon. So that's going to do it for the weapon banner. Lots and lots of elemental mastery themed weapons here is what I noticed. So if you're looking to build either hyperbloom, aggravate, or quick bloom, or just regular bloom DPS, does any sort of bloom dendro related team comp, here are your options. There's so many different elemental mastery boosting weapons in this banner, so go all out if that's definitely what you're trying to build. If you have any questions about the weapons and you feel like I missed something, feel free to ask me in the comments down below. I'll be making tons more videos for 3.6, so stick around and subscribe to see more videos. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.